The most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. Let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that non-violence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that non-violence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. and it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve, and that in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve, and that in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. And let me say, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. I'm still convinced that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me to be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo.
How you guys doing today? Welcome to another episode of Pitchfork Podcast for January 21st, 2021. 21. All right, guys. If you like the show, hit the like button, hit the share button, let people know that I run the show. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, guys, to engage with the show. If you want to participate in the show, you can call 253-203-6784. Again, number is 253-203-6784. And you can also join my Discord. The links are going to be in the chat if you are on Facebook, if you are on YouTube, if you're on DLive, or you are on Twitch. You should see links in the description, and if not, you can go to my channel, go to the About section, and you will see a link to my Discord on that page. Now, that being said, guys, as you saw from the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about some more post-election news, talking about Joe Biden also. Discussing pigs, road pirates, pigs. That's what I call them. You know, a lot of people in my audience and a lot of people around the world, I think most people in my audience don't like cops, but a good bit of people do. And let me explain to you the reason why I don't like cops. It's because I don't think most of them are actually here to serve and protect us. In fact, the Supreme Court has already ruled that they don't have to actually protect us. So no, they don't actually protect us. So if you call in with something like that, if you say that, I'm gonna hang up on you, because that clearly demonstrates you don't know what the fuck you're talking about then. Okay, so don't call in with that bullshit. because they don't actually protect you. Supreme Court has already said they don't have to. It doesn't matter how many times they put it on the side of a goddamn car. They don't actually protect you. So don't say that ever. I don't want to see that on my channel. It's not fucking true. I don't allow misinformation on my channel. You can announce that's my opinion, and I will totally accept that. That's totally fine. I'll leave it alone. But if you're stating something as fact, yes, I'm gonna moderate it if it's not fucking true. If I fact check it and it's not true, it's not true. Cops do not have to protect you. They don't serve you. They don't do shit but take money from you and collect the freaking paycheck. And that's why when most of them die, I feel kind of good. I clap. Good job, guys. Take out the goddamn trash. Because most cops are trash. Let's just be honest. Most of them, if given the opportunity to violate your rights based on what a politician passes in terms of a so-called law, if they had the opportunity to do that, they would do that. So most cops kind of deserve a fucking bullet to the goddamn skull. And to be honest with you, most of them that end up like that, I don't feel bad for them. They fucking deserve that. You know, people are like, oh, what about their families? They're better off fucking without them. Let's be honest, their wives typically are better off without them because cops typically beat their wives, right? Same with children, right? The incidence of child abuse with police officers is much higher than the general population. So let me just hear how people are going to just excuse that one, right? Well, their jobs are hard, so they got to beat their kids, right? Okay. Drinking some water. My thing is that I don't like police officers. And if I ever give credit to a police officer, it's very, very rarely. That's how you know that you're truly dealing with a good officer if I give them credit. But most police officers are trash who deserve to fucking die. Honestly. No, I don't think that we necessarily need police officers. Private security works just fine. I think if neighborhoods would have band together and get their own private security, I have no problem with that. Police officers, they don't really enforce laws. They don't even protect you. Supreme Court has already said that they don't necessarily have to. And most times when they're going around enforcing silly drug war stuff. So honestly, most of them deserve a fucking bullet. And honestly, I don't feel sorry for goddamn widows or goddamn orphans of goddamn police officers because believe it or not, they're better off fucking without them. And yeah, that sounds pretty fucking extreme, but that's how I feel about them. If you don't like what I have to say, 253-203-6784. Again, the number is 253-203-6784. But don't come bitching in my comment section about something if you're unwilling to call in. Everyone's saying, "Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy." I get that. I get that from a cerebral standpoint. But you don't work 7 days out of a fucking week. You don't work 7 days out of a goddamn week now. Nah. I don't believe you work 7 days out of a week every single month now. So if you constantly having an issue with me and I give you an opportunity to confront me, then confront me. Oh, shut the fuck up. Simple as that, right? I try to be fair. I give people an opportunity to get at me. Like for example, if they call in and says this is just my opinion, I will just mute myself. I won't even say anything. But if you start asserting things as fact, that's when I'm gonna stop you. Like I did with the old girl on yesterday. But anyways, let's get into the news. I know some people are going to be really, really upset what I said just now, and I don't give a shit. Most cops are shit who deserve a goddamn bullet. I'm going to say it for you again. Most cops are shit who deserve a fucking bullet. I said it. Clip it. Go ahead, clip that and send it to freaking donut operator or whoever you're going to send it off to. And guess what? As soon as their freaking fans show up here, I'm going to moderate all their shit too. And them too as well. Yeah. I totally believe in that now. Most cops are shit. You won't change my mind. Don't bother. Most of them are shit. You want to know why I say that most of them are shit? It's because they enforce unjust laws. And when they enforce unjust laws, well, then that makes me wonder who else around them is watching them. A lot of people. And then they have supervisors. They have sheriffs and police chiefs. So through a process of elimination, I have just demonstrated to you that there's really no such thing as a good apple. Almost all of them are fucking bad apples. Just honestly, let's just hope that enough of them get speaking murdered during their goddamn traffic stops. Because honestly, the less cops, the goddamn better. People are like, oh well, these areas they're gonna get taken over. They're gonna be. Listen, hire private fucking security. Communities should just band together, hire private security guards. Police are garbage. Most of them are trash. They are very, very poorly trained. Most of them are just trigger happy morons. All right. Who I am quite glad that most of their wives cheat on them. Just unfortunate that their husbands end up beating them anyways. You know, so I don't defend the beaters of kids or women, which are typically cops. So, you know, the one thing that I've made clear on this channel is that I don't like police officers. And yeah, I'm gonna run negative cop stories all the time because most cops are trash. Most cops are better off fucking dead. Pigs in a goddamn blanket, fry them like fucking bacon. That's how I feel about it. And you're not gonna change my mind on that. So there's no point in you even trying, ever. I can have my mind changed on a lot of things. But the idea that most cops, or even a good percentage of them, are actually decent, you'll never do it. You'll never do it. You'll never do it. But let's get into the news. I know I can sound a little bit extreme. I say a lot of hurtful, mean things, but guess what? I don't give a shit. You came to a channel with a man with a devil for a fucking avatar. You knew what you were in for. Let's go into the last thing. You know, I don't mince words about some of the stories I'm be talking about. You know, I don't mince words about it. The first story is gonna be from Newsmax. All right, here. Pelosi says Senate to get Trump impeachment for trial soon. All right, this is gonna be interesting. So this is some post inauguration news. This is written on Thursday, January 21st. This is about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi discussing some of the articles of impeachment. I'm going to post it in the chat. And by the way, people are free to call in and say, "Hey, you're wrong. I'm wrong about the freaking police." And I'm going to tell you the reason why you're wrong. That the police are garbage, and that the police are just road pirates who just want your money. But anyways, let's get back to this other story here. Pelosi says Senate to get Trump impeachment for trial soon. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the article of impeachment against Donald Trump will be sent to the Senate soon, triggering the start of his trial, but she refused to specify when. The House impeachment managers, the prosecutors who will present the case against Trump, are in contact with the Senate about the timing, Pelosi said at a news conference Thursday. I don't think it will be long, she said. The article accuses Trump of inciting insurrection for stoking a crowd of his supporters on January 6th, who then stormed the Capitol in a riot that left 5 people dead. Sending the article to the Senate will require an almost immediate start for the trial, inevitably drawing attention away from President Joe Biden's first days in office and potentially showing confirmation of and potentially slowing the confirmation of his cabinet picks. Democrats won back the Senate on Wednesday after 6 years in the minority after 2 new Georgia senators elected January 5th were sworn in. Top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer has replaced Republican Mitch McConnell as the majority leader, but they are still working out details on how to organize the Senate, including the procedures for the trial. It's still unresolved as to when she's sending it over. The Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, the chamber's number 2 Democrat, told the reporters earlier on Thursday. It could be today, unlikely, could be tomorrow. And then what we're going to do with it, whether or not it's going to be full-blown trial with evidence or witnesses or expedited, whatever that means, that final decision isn't even close. So that's why I'm going to stop there on that article there. So apparently they are trying to rush the articles of impeachment through to the Senate, while that the Democrats now control the Senate. So Trump could be eventually convicted, and if convicted, he could be prevented from holding federal office ever again, thus ending his 2024 or 2028 run, or any other run that he might plan. This could be like an ultimate power play of the Democrats to make sure that they get rid of Trump permanently. All right, so let's go ahead and hear another article here. This is from CNN. QAnon believers are in disarray after Biden is inaugurated. Oh my God! This is written by Brian Fung and Kaya Uriev of CNN Business, updated today, this morning, but it's written on January 21st, Thursday. Today, happy belated New Year. It's almost the end of the month, so get ready for Valentine's Day. By the way, guys, hit the like button, hit the share button, let people know that I run this podcast every day. And by the way, yeah, I say a lot of mean, hyperbolic things, but I'm devil's advocate. I'm kind of known for that, but I also still give you the news. All right, so in the description, you should see not description, but the live chat. If you have the ability to see the live chat, you see a link to the CNN story about QAnon. QAnon disarray after Biden is inaugurated. Oh my God, I love this. I love it so much. I love how QAnon is in disarray. How they're freaking out. Because those people, let me tell you something. They are the most delusional bunch of idiots I've ever seen in my entire life. But here we go. For years, believers of the QAnon conspiracy theory have been waiting for the moment when a grand plan would be put into action and secret members of a supposed satanic pedophilia ring at the highest ranks of the government and Hollywood would suddenly be exposed, rounded up, possibly even publicly executed. They were nearly always sure it was right around the corner, but the storm never came. And the moment of Joe Biden's inauguration was the last possible opportunity for President Donald Trump to put the plan into motion. But as Biden raised his hand and swore an oath to defend the Constitution, becoming the nation's 46th president, nothing happened. The anticlimax sent QAnon adherents into a frenzy of confusion and disbelief, almost instantly shattering a collective delusion that had been nurtured and amplified by many on the far right. Now, in addition to being scattered to various smaller websites, after Facebook and Twitter cracked down on QAnon-related content, believers risk having their own topsy-turvy world turned upside down, or perhaps right side up. Members of a QAnon-focused Telegram channel and some users of the image board 4chan vowed to keep the faith. Others proclaimed they were renouncing their beliefs. This sounds like a damn religion. Still others devised new theories that purported to push the ultimate showdown further into the future. One of the ideology's most visible icons, Ron Watkins, who goes by the online moniker Code Monkey Z, told supporters to go back to our lives. Oh my goodness. The most hardcore QAnon followers are in disarray, said Daniel J. Jones, president of Advanced Democracy, a nonpartisan nonprofit that tracks extremist groups and misinformation online. After years of waiting for the Great Awakening, QAnon adherents seem genuinely shocked to see President Biden successfully inaugurated. A significant percentage online are writing that they are now done with QAnon, and while others are doubling down and promoting new conspiracies. Wow. The smattering of reactions underscores the uncertain future now facing the QAnon movement, which tech companies had allowed to metastasize on their platforms for years, but didn't start taking action against until pretty much late 2020. The baseless conspiracy theory has been circulating since 2017. In addition to alleging a vast child trafficking conspiracy, those who were drawn in claim that government bureaucrats who were comprised of a deep state were quietly working to undermine President Donald Trump's agenda. Trump himself fueled the claims by refusing to publicly denounce them on national television. And people identifying as part of the QAnon movement were part of the mob of Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol earlier this month. Following the riots, QAnon supporters eagerly anticipated the moment of Biden's inaugurations. As the new titans around the deep state, some people are becoming more and more desperate to discredit Q. One 4chan user posted on Wednesday morning. I guess what they say is true. The flak is heaviest over the target. But after Biden's swearing in came and went, panic set in. We were promised arrests, exposures, military. We were promised arrests, exposures, military regime, classified documents. Where is it? Wrote one member of the QAnon linked Telegram channel, which has nearly 128,000 subscribers. I'm scared, feeling sick to my stomach, but I am holding the line still, said another. Well, babies are still being raped and eaten any fucking minute now, God, said another QAnon user. Some began acknowledging the truth. Biden is our president. A fourth user in the Telegram channel said, "It's time to get off our devices and get back to reality. If something happens, then something happens. But for now, it's logging out of all social media. It's been fun, guys, but it's unfortunately over." My God, man, this sounds like a damn cult, yo. This sounds like a major. All right, DM Cosmic Chaos says on YouTube, at least these idiots can get some help. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. But oh my gosh, man, that is just. Does QAnon sound like a cult? I'm actually in the chat, guys. Does QAnon sound like a freaking cult? Because to me, it does. It sounded like a cult from the very word go. Right. It pretty much sounded like a cult from the word go. And that's what really concerned me about that. It sounded it sounded like pretty much it was a version of I guess Occupy. I mean, it was like pretty much a version of it. Yeah, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was as I wouldn't say that Occupy was conspiratorial or that Occupy believed in all these supernatural nonsensical stuff, you know, like seeing the future and that kind of stuff, like and like scrying and witches and warlocks and all that crazy stuff. I don't think, you know, Occupy was like that. What do you guys think will happen to QAnon? What do you guys think is going to happen to QAnon? I want to know what you think. Do you think that the QAnon is going to be around? Do you think they're going to just go away? Do you think that that Q is going to, I guess, become a bigger movement? Are they going to become a more political force? What do you think is going to happen to QAnon and the members of QAnon? Let me know what you think in the live chat. With that being said, we're going to move on to another story here because, again, I want to just keep it moving because I want to give you guys some stories. But I'm very interested in this. I'm also going to be discussing some riot news coming out of Portland. Right now, we're going to go ahead and post that link in the chat. Make sure you guys have that link. I'll make sure you guys have that link. I think I posted it before, but it never hurts to make sure. It never hurts to double tap or triple tap in this case. All right, so this is Carol Basket says Netflix betrayed her over Tiger King betrayal, claims Joe Exotic feud was overblown. Baskins tells Fox News she never spoken to her rival Joseph Maldonado Passage. It's written by Melissa Roberto of Fox News. This woman is claiming that Netflix blew up the feud between her and Joe Exotic. We're gonna watch the video here. It's very interesting.
I was thrown from the seat on a bus.
So we're not gonna watch that yet, but pretty much I'm very interested in seeing what Carol Baskin has to say. So let's see. It's
I was.
Yeah. Let's see here. I don't want to see this. I want to see the Carol Baskin story. Why is that? Yeah, I don't want to see this at all. I want to see the Carol Baskin story. Why? Okay, well then screw that then. I'm not gonna worry about it then. We're gonna move into another story because that's ridiculous. I thought I was gonna be able to see an actual news story there. So, but I think what I can do is I can still read you guys the news story. Let me go and try to go back here if it's gonna let me. Come on now. There we go. All right, so we're still gonna cover the story though. All right, so Carol Baskin says Netflix betrayed her over Tiger King betrayal. Claims Joe Exotic feud was overblown. All right, so again, I was hearing about this, and I want to give Carol Baskin, you know, a bit of a fair shake. I think that she has her side of the story too. All right, so Carol Baskin became a household name in 2020 thanks to the Netflix's release of Tiger King, but the big cat enthusiast still claims the streamer delivered a portrayal of her that wasn't genuine. Baskin spoke to Fox News this week where she reflected on skyrocketing to fame seemingly overnight. Shortly after Tiger King Murder, Mayhem, and Madness was released in 2020, viewers jumped to question Baskin's motives, a result brought in part by claims made by her rival on the series, Joe Exotic. Baskin 59 said Netflix left her blindsided. I felt betrayed by them. Baskin admits. So we worked with the producers for 5 years. When they came to us, they said what they were working on. What they were working on was Blackfish for big cats. Blackfish showed just a horrible life for dolphins and whales being kept in these concrete pools. After it, the whole industry of whale shows and the stealing of whales and putting them in aquariums came to a halt. To do the same for big cats, we thought a documentary exposing how the cub petting is so cruel would be great. We were all on board. Baskin continued. In fact, they said the name of the show was going to be Stolen Wildlife and said that Joe would be in it, but in 5 minutes of it. Baskin claims producers failed to mention their decisions to go off course. Instead of exposing big cat cruelty, she said Netflix created a show that spawned a feud with Exotic that doesn't actually exist. They totally lied about us about what their end product was going to be, she said. The whole promise bit behind the show was that it was a feud. For a feud, you have to have two people that are feuding. I've never had a conversation with Joe. I've never even spoken to him. That's strange, because there's certain things that that's interesting. So she's saying that she never even met Joe Exotic. If that's the case, then that means that is just... Wow. That is really messed up that Netflix actually would go and do that. Then, try to make it seem like, there's some few that wasn't there, and then especially if they told her and Joe that it was gonna be something, and it be like one thing, and it ended up being like something completely different. Like for 5 years. I mean, I think that's a little bit messed up. But it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. So some people said that I wasn't gonna cover the Antifa riots, and honestly, tell you the truth, I don't give a shit about it. But I'm not Antifa. But okay, fine. I'll cover it. I'll cover it. Oh my God. I'll cover it. Live updates. Anti-Biden Antifa protesters take to the streets in Portland, Seattle overnight. Portland police said they recovered lone poles and a large knife from people in the crowd. 15 arrested, 3 arrested in Seattle. Okay, well, just based on the amount of arrests, not comparable to the fucking Capitol. And if you try to compare it, I'm gonna bang you from the goddamn chat. Yep. Because guess what? Nobody fucking died. Yeah, when you have protests and someone dies versus someone not dying, that's a pretty good thing. If the worst that happens is property damage and people are arrested, but everybody lives, I'll take that conclusion versus what happened on January 6th. Yes, I will. Antifa protesters in Portland clashed with authorities Wednesday as they gathered to voice dissatisfaction with President Joe Biden forcing officers to retreat and taking at least one police bicycle, authorities said. Oh, wow. They took your bicycle. They took your bicycle. They took my bicycle, Mommy. They took my bicycle, you fucking pussies. A crowd of up to 150 people gathered at Revolution Hall around 2 p.m. local time and marched to the headquarters of the Democratic Party of Oregon. Portland Police Sergeant Kevin Allen said the so-called J20 protest was a demonstration against Biden and law enforcement. In total, 15 adults were arrested for crimes ranging from rioting and possessing of a destructive device, reckless burning, and attempted assault of a public safety officer, according to authorities. Police say that they recovered some lone poles and a large knife from people in the crowd. In Seattle, rioters caused damage to the city, and at least 2 people were arrested. Damage to the city. What does that even fucking mean? What does that even fucking mean? Right. So it says fast facts. Police said that the individuals in Portland were seen carrying pepper ball guns. Completely constitutional, in my opinion. If you can carry a gun, if you can openly carry a goddamn gun, like some people have been doing in Portland and fucking Oregon, AR-15s. I don't want to hear about how they should be able to carry a pepper ball gun. Electronic control types of weapons, similar to stun guns, shields, fireworks, and rocks. I don't hear anything about guns, so I don't fucking care. In fact, the only thing that I regret about this whole riot and protest in Portland and also in Seattle is that they didn't target police stations. I see if they only targeted police stations, I would have had no goddamn issue with it. Had they only started just fucking up goddamn cops, I would have had no goddamn issue with it. But the whole idea of them just fucking up like random buildings, that's what I have an issue with. Don't target innocent people. Don't target innocent people. Right? Don't target innocent people. I don't like that. But if you're gonna target anybody, target the goddamn cops. I'm not encouraging you to do that. If you do that, you're freaking dumb. But if you did do it, I'd fucking laugh. If you did do it, I would probably clap my hands for you. I would clap only because of what happened as an end result, even though I thought the action that you took was stupid, and I would tell you to not do it. But you know, I've noticed that police officers, the ones down in the freaking down south, like South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, they've been real stubborn. But I've noticed the ones that are like in the mid part of the U.S. and like the northern parts, they've been a lot more courteous. A lot more courteous. And I think the ones down south, they're going to become more courteous too as the demographics change. As more and more African Americans become primary citizens, and more of them that actually vote, the more change that you're going to see. It's going to be very, 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 very interesting. With that being said, let's move on to the next article here. So again, I covered the Portland riots. All right. I covered the Portland riots and the ones in Seattle. 15 people were fucking arrested, and 15 people in Portland, and that's Portland. 3 people in Seattle. Not much damage. I saw some of the pictures. It was a little overblown. There were no guns. They brought rocks. They brought like stun guns. They brought basically paintball guns to shoot like balls of fucking pepper. That's pretty much it. That's the worst of it. Like soccer hooligan type of shit, basically. So you know why Fox News and the right wants me to cover that so bad. Oh, look at this guy. Oh, see, they're rioting. Hey man, hey, Dubbo, they're rioting, Dubbo. See, Dubbo, they riot. Me point this out. You have to cover. Nobody fucking died. So no, it's not comparable to fucking January the 6th. Nice try though. I mean, some people on the right were desperate for that fucking win. They were just, and it's almost sick, you know. Right? It's almost fucking sick. Like these people are almost hoping for cities to goddamn burn just so they can have, you know, some kind of point to use against the left. Fucking pathetic, man. Let's move on here back onto another story about Biden before we get into a video. Biden suspends new oil and gas leases permits for 60 days. That's going to be huge news. So Joe Biden has basically suspended any kind of new oil gas lease. 2 months at minimum is what you're going to be waiting. Right? So if you know that Antifa is not with Biden, you already know that I'm not with Biden. You know. By the way, DM Cosmic Chaos says on YouTube, what? Antifa not with Biden? What a surprise! Shake my head. Many people don't realize that Antifa does not like Biden, and so now you're seeing proof and evidence of it. I've been saying that for like a while, but for some reason people on the right didn't want to believe me. Like Antifa does not like Biden. The far left does not like Biden. Like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're not far leftists because the far left doesn't even like them. That's how you know that they aren't far left. But anyway, so move on here. Biden suspends new oil and gas leases permits for 60 days. Let's get into the article here. It's published on Thursday, January 21st, 2021. Happy belated New Year. We're almost into February, which is Valentine's Day, which is Lovers Month. I got a special contest that's coming up. Let's get into the article. The Biden administration has suspended new oil and gas leasing and drilling on public lands and waters for 60 days as part of a review of programs at the Department of interior. The move follows President Joe Biden's campaign pledge to halt new drilling and end leasing of publicly owned energy reserves as part of his plan to address climate change. The suspension went into effect immediately under an order signed Wednesday by Acting Interior Secretary Scott de la Vega. It drew a quick backlash from the oil industry. The order also blocks approval of new mining plans, land sales or exchanges, and the hiring of senior level staff at the agency. That is short and sweet. I like that. We're going to talk about Parler. Parler loses bid to have service restored by Amazon. Well, that is something, huh? That is something. It's linked to the article right here from Newsmax. Parler loses bid to have service restored by Amazon. It's published on January 21st, which is today. A federal judge on Thursday rejected Parler's demand that Amazon.com Inc. restore web hosting services for the social media platform, which Amazon had cut off following the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. U.S. District Judge Barbara Rothstein in Seattle said Parler failed to show it was likely to prevail on the merits of his claims, or that the public interest supported granting an injunction requiring the restoration of service. Parler, also banned from Google and Apple Play stores, casts itself as a conservative alternative to social media platforms like Facebook. That's the end of the article there. It's very, very short, but pretty much a district court judge in Seattle has pretty much shut down Parler's attempts to get his service turned back on by Amazon. So Parler's going to have to go elsewhere or try to become like fully independent like Gap. It is what it is. It is what it is, man. Conservatives outraged over Fox News' Wallace praise for Biden. Once again, Newsmax and Fox News are now going to get back into the competition of who's more far right. I'm on the right. No, I'm on the right. No, I'm on the right. You shouldn't praise the president. You shouldn't praise him at all. You shouldn't give him any kind of compliments. No compliments. You know, that's the kind of audience that Newsmax and Fox News is trying to garner. The country fuckheads who don't know shit. Now, not every country person out there is a fucking idiot. I said the people who happen to be country and also don't know shit, which unfortunately happens to be a good bit of the country. But in terms of rural people, but I want you to understand something, right? This is the classic definition of a purity test. You can't even give a president praise without so-called conservatives, and they're not really conservatives. They're more like fascists or pretend conservatives, pretend libertarians who are all mad at Chris Wallace. Okay, because if Chris Wallace sat there and said, I'm only going to acknowledge President Trump, they wouldn't have said shit. It's written by Marissa Herman, published on today, January 21st, Thursday. All right, Fox News' Chris Wallace didn't hold back when it came to praising Joe Biden's inaugural address. The Fox News Sunday anchor called it one of the best he's ever heard, outraging conservative viewers. After Biden's inauguration ceremony, Wallace said he thought it was a great speech and the best inaugural address I ever heard. Quoting Biden's "We must end this uncivil war" line from the speech, Wallace put the address right behind John F. Kennedy's famous 1961 Ask Not address. His accolades for Biden are in stark contrast to the comments he made about Trump's inaugural address 4 years ago. This was Donald Trump's season power, in the sense that there is a new sheriff in town, Wallace said of Trump's 2017 speech. The American carnage must stop right here, right now. This was the speech of an insurgent, the leader of a revolt that has won and taken control of Washington. The Fox fans began ditching the network in droves after its 2020 election night coverage. Those who tuned in to the station's inauguration coverage quickly took to social media to complain about Wallace's bias towards Biden. A bias towards... Interesting. Let me look up something real quick. Let me show you how stupid these people are, right? So we're gonna look up something. I'm gonna show you something quick. I'm gonna put Chris Wallace in brackets, right? Let's put in George Bush. Inauguration. Inaugural address. Let's see if Chris Wallace ever said anything about George Bush. Let's see. We're going to change. I may have to come back to this in a second, but we're going to change the parameters to. Let's not allow this to go back any further. Let's say 01 / 30. Let's not let this go any further than 2004. Let's see what we get. See if Chris Wallace didn't say anything. Didn't say anything about that. Okay. Let's see. Obama. Let's see. Let's change the custom range dates to 2008. Let's go. He didn't say anything about that. Did he say anything about Obama? See, what I want to do is look up and see what else has he said. So you only have 2 examples. So he said nothing about Barack Obama's inaugural address. He only said something about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Just 2 people. Just 2 people so far. And that's what you flipping the fuck out. Wow. I flipped over to Fox News only to hear Chris Wallace said this was the best inaugural address he's ever heard. Aaron Carpenter, a Republican city councilman in Marysville, Ohio, tweeted, I was then reminded of the reason I stopped watching Fox News last November. So the reason why you had to stop watching Fox News is because your God Emperor, right, didn't know when. It wasn't their support of the 2 wars that got so many of our people killed. It wasn't their incessant support of big bailouts for big banks or the drug war or mass surveillance. It wasn't any of that. It was the one time in which your Cheeto Palpatine didn't win a fucking election that you questioned Fox News. Wow. Bridget Gabriel, a New York Times best-selling author and former news anchor in the Middle East, called Wallace a fake news hack on Twitter. In a series of tweets, she called out Wallace's comments in Fox News. She asked if Fox News was even trying anymore, and then wrote that Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy, and Barack Obama were all gifted orators, and objectively speaking, Biden is not, when discussing Wallace's ranking of Biden's address. I want to tell you something there, Bridget Gabriel. It's called a fucking opinion. If he says, again, I don't mind a news anchor or a journalist so long as they are clearly making a distinction that this is just my fucking opinion. Unlike CNN and unlike Bridget Gabriel, you know, and others. The man said it's the best inaugural address I've ever heard in my life. In my life, not your fucking delusional Cheeto Palpatine loving, Donald Trump mushroom dick sucking bullshit, cop dick sucking life. In his fucking life, does the man not have a right to have a fucking opinion? I mean, while you at it, do you want to also put on Chris Wallace's fucking pants too? Go and pick out his goddamn shoes. I mean, fuck it. Just go walk into his goddamn kitchen, right? Find out whoever is making him damn dinner, slap the shit out of him and make him dinner and make sure you tell Chris Wallace you gonna eat what the fuck I want you to eat because I control your life now. Does the man have a right to have a fucking opinion? So somebody's a fake news hack, all because they said that was the best inaugural address I've heard in my life. Do you not think that maybe to some degree he was saying that because he wanted to diffuse tensions? That he realized that Fox News, your audience demographic is dying, getting older, and the country, given how many people have voted a certain way, the country is looking for an alternative to MAGA, 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 MAGA. People are sick to death of fucking MAGA. And so that's why Fox News have been putting out the pieces that they've been putting out. Because people are sick of hearing from fucking MAGA. I'm tired of goddamn MAGA. You know? So don't get mad at Chris Wallace or anyone else for sharing their fucking opinion when I'm sitting there watching MAGA and watching Trump supporters storm the goddamn Capitol. You know, just over fucking opinions, feelings. MAGA has lost all right, QAnon, all those people on the fucking conspiratorial right, you've all lost your right to tell anybody what kind of fucking opinions that they can share. You've all lost that right. Chris Wallace has every right to say what the hell he just said. None of you have any right to tell him that he's wrong. Talk show radio host and frequent Fox News guest Leo Terrell tweeted "Really?" about Wallace's commentary on the inaugural speech. His followers agreed with his assessment, calling Trump's inaugural address far superior. Biden should actually read a Trump speech, and they'd all love it. One Run Terrell fan wrote back. Another wrote that Wallace showed his leftist cards a long time ago. Many reiterated that this is exactly why they abandoned watching Fox News for Newsmax. No, what you're getting is the conspiratorial right now, because now, basically, they're only jumping on Chris Wallace and also on Fox News because of what happened. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and go back up here because they actually told you. They told you exactly what it was. Right here. They told you what it was. Fox News fans began ditching the network in basically for its 2020 election night coverage. Because they called certain states that ended up Biden did in fact win. There was someone on the right who said, "Oh, they called it way too early. They called it way too early." No, they're not calling it way too early. They're calling it only when President Trump pretty much has no shot. Okay? And now that Biden is your president, I just don't understand how is Fox News wrong for that. So basically, Newsmax is now the news outlet next to the Daily Stormer for the far-right news source of choice. That's why I read from them, so that if if even Newsmax can't really hold up a far right fucking narrative, you probably won't be able to either. Let's go move on here to a video here.
Another big story this morning, of course, the COVID crisis. It hung over every aspect of Inauguration Day, and yesterday marked the country's deadliest day yet in the pandemic. More than 4,100 lives lost just in the last...
Wow, that's just in the last what? Okay, I'm trying to get the video time to catch up.
Another big story this morning, of course, the COVID crisis. It hung over every aspect of Inauguration Day, and yesterday marked the country's deadliest day yet in the pandemic. More than 4,100 lives lost just in the last 24 hours. President Biden says combating the virus is his top priority. And after taking some initial steps after being sworn in, he plans to announce a comprehensive strategy today. Dr. Anthony Fauci joining a press briefing at the White House later. And joining us now is one of the experts.
Wow, that is 4,100 people in one day. Good Lord, man. That I can see why Biden is making this a big priority. And to be honest with you, if I'm gonna be forthcoming with you, you know, I wrote that article about the airports in South Carolina not taking COVID seriously because I kind of knew this is a lot more serious than what people made it out to be, and people like didn't want to wear masks, they want to argue with me all the time. It's like, guys, I've already talked to freaking CDC. Like I'm telling you, dude, like this is a lot worse than you think it is, dude. I didn't like the way that the government shut down the you know, pretty much like the whole world, the world freaking you know, the whole West, you know, and they didn't provide, I think, enough adequate money, you know, in my country to help businesses and to help citizens basically make it through this point. So that was like my biggest contention. But in terms of taking the virus seriously, I totally get it. I totally get it. I think at first I thought it was like a joke until I thought it was a joke for like a day. I knew a pandemic was coming. I knew there's I heard about some tales of like a flu or some kind of cold, some kind of new bug that was going around in like China, and I heard about it because I was originally I was researching parts of the Hong Kong riots. I was wanting to do a follow-up video about that. So I'd already at that time I had put out a video about the NBA around the time that I first started hearing about it, and I put out that particular video, and I want to basically do like a follow-up about what was going on in Hong Kong. And then I started hearing about this little flu or whatever, or like the Hong Kong flu. That's what they call it, the Hong Kong flu. You know, they call it that. And it started spreading around. And then that was around January time when I was going to release that video, but then I held back because I started hearing a lot more news about some crazy virus. Everyone thought it was like a joke, pretty much like a joke at first. And I put out that article, I believe, in February or March about the airport in South Carolina, and people started laughing at me like, "Oh, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about." Well, about a week after I put out that particular article, people realized I was absolutely right, and that article appears on the U.S. Press Association's main webpage. In fact, if you give me a second, I can look that up for you. There's a lot of new subscribers on my channel here. A lot of people don't know the kind of work that I do sometimes, so I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, I'm at the U.S. Press Association Airport. Let's see. I think it's the link right there, so people can kind of see some of the work that I do. Yeah, here we go. That's the article right there, and yeah, I put out the article sometimes, and sometimes I put it on the main page of the U.S. Press Association, and sometimes it's picked up by the mainstream media, and then people started citing my article on like CNN, like all over the place, because pretty much like it demonstrated that our whole states, like airports, weren't taking the virus seriously when people found out it was pretty damn serious. Let's go back to the video here. I apologize for monologuing and talking so much, but I'd like to kind of give people like a background to some of the things that I've done on my channel.
President Biden says combating the virus is his top priority. And after taking some initial steps after being sworn in, he plans to announce a comprehensive strategy today. Dr. Anthony Fauci joining a press briefing at the White House later. And joining us now is one of the experts who will lead that charge, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the new director of the CDC. Dr. Walensky, good morning. Thank you for your time, ma'am, on a busy first day.
Good morning, Savannah. Thanks for having me.
Well, we have a lot to get to it, and let's just start with this day.
Right, it's been the work that we've been doing for the last weeks to months. What I will say is, we've had several landmarks this week. Yesterday was a year since our first case in the United States, and Tuesday was 400,000 deaths that we hit in this country, with an anticipated 100,000 more at our current pace by the middle to end of February. So we recognize this is the most immediate emergency to get this country back to health. There are numerous plans as we think forward as to how we're going to get people vaccinated. We need to make sure that we titrate the amount of vaccine that we have for the amount of people who are eligible, so we don't have vaccine on the shelves and yet we don't see the footage of these long lines. So we really need to match that and expand our eligibility to make sure that it fits with the vaccine supply. We need to make sure that there are enough vaccinators out there, that we have commissioned health corps, that we have medical military, that we have retirees.
That was something that Biden and several other people were talking about. Even Trump had kind of brought this up before at one point. It's one of the ideas that I think that it should have been pursued a lot more. Basically, one of the biggest issues that we're having with vaccination is just we don't have enough people that can even administer it, because you have to pretty much kind of know what you're doing to administer this, because you got to go and defrost this thing, especially when you talk about the Pfizer/BioNTech coronavirus vaccine. It has to be stored at a very, very cold temperature, and pretty much you got to defrost it. And once it's at like a certain type of temperature, it becomes useless if you don't just use it within a certain time frame. So you need people who are experienced with dealing with some kind of vaccines on some kind of level, so that you don't end up wasting a bunch of vaccines. Also, you don't want to get a bunch of people out there who have butterfingers who don't remember to put things back into the refrigerator, or who don't properly take care or maintain these vaccines, because these things are very, very expensive. People's lives are dependent on it. Most people in the country, the vast majority of people in my country, I'm not sure about the country that you might find yourself in, but have not been vaccinated yet. I haven't gotten the shot yet. So pretty much right now we need more vaccination sites, and also more vaccines. So right now, one things that the new CDC director is saying is that they're working to vaccinate 100 million people. They're trying to get that done. That's like a new goal. I don't know if they're going to reach that goal, but let's see what she says about it.
Medical students and nursing students who are just about to graduate, dentists and veterinarians, in order to be out there to vaccinate the public.
And can you start that work today? I mean, that's the thing. A huge promise was made, and people have heard promises before. So, I mean, can that work begin today?
That work, the work and the planning we've been meeting daily at least for 6 weeks or so. So that work has begun already, and we are on the ground. The plan was not to start planning today. The plan was to start working today and to get it out to people.
Let's talk about.
We need to make sure that we have it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let's talk about supply, because New York for.
You know what? I like her because she's asking the questions. She's asking. She's not giving softball questions, and I've actually I saw a part of this. That's why I wanted to add this to to the show queue. But there was one part that she says here that I find very interesting, and I like the fact that she's asking good questions.
For example, said they've had to reschedule appointments because they ran out of vaccine. Is there a supply issue?
We are working closely with General Perna, with the manufacturers, with the states to understand exactly where the supply is. And as you noted earlier, the president has plan to use assigned in to use the Defense Production Act to see exactly what it is that are the resources that we need either in the vaccine production or in the vaccine distribution or in the vaccine administration. Do we need syringes or do we need chemical products?
And do we know the answer to those questions?
We are working towards the answer to those questions. We're day 2 in the driver's seat, but we understand exactly. Right now, I think we still have vaccine on the shelves that we need to get into people. So we're deploying, places that we can get them into people. We are looking at community vaccination centers and stadiums and gymnasiums. We're looking at mobile units to really get to every corner of this country, federally qualified healthcare centers, and pharmacies. So we're looking at a rollout plan that will be diverse so that we can get to all people.
It's such a strange situation because on the one hand, you have millions of Americans who are just chomping at the bit. They want to get that vaccine. And then you have some frontline workers, some have reported up to 40% of their health workers aren't getting the vaccine, don't want it, want to wait and see.
Wow, that is... Again, this is why I added this to the freaking video queue. This chick, I like her, man. I like her a lot. She's she's reading from part of that from a teleprompter. But you can kind of hear her talk. You can kind of see her say, like, these are genuine questions, because you gotta think at some point or at some point, right? Even if you have a lot of money, like members of the media, this virus still affects you, right? And maybe it doesn't really affect you, but maybe it affects a family member or a loved one, a mama, a daddy. So it seems like she's not throwing out no softball questions. It don't seem like she's throwing out a whole lot of softball questions.
How do you explain that, and what message does that send?
Right, I think we have a lot of work to do in both of those spaces. We have to make sure that, as I noted earlier, that we titrate the number of people who are eligible to the vaccine supply. And then we have a lot of work. The whole basis for how we do vaccine rollout has to be based on equity, and we're committed to that. And as we do that, it may be a little bit slower on the uptake for people who are vaccine hesitant. The vaccine hesitancy comes in numerous different flavors, I will say. Some people really just need it to be convenient. Some people need to have permission to take the time to get the vaccine, or enough leeway to be able to take the day off if they're feeling unwell the next day. Some of it is they just kind of want to see how it's going to go. Some of it is education, and what is it that what is it that they're hesitant about? What is the science that they need to understand? And we need to bring that science to them by their trusted people, by people who they trust. So we're working on all aspects of that plan.
And then real quickly, as I'm just
Right. Here's the thing. So I think that is a very interesting point. And now I kind of see what the Surgeon General was saying. I think his name was Jerome Adams. I think it was a black guy. When he was asking LeBron James and other like basketball players to be like front in line to go ahead and take like a vaccine. I get what he meant now. Yeah. He has a point. I take back what I said. Yeah. LeBron, football players, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, all those people, they need to be publicly seen taking vaccines, because there's a lot of fear, especially in a lot of minority communities, about certain vaccinations, and not only in minority with minorities, but there's a whole lot of white anti-vaxxers out there too. And so the problem is that it's not that people don't trust the vaccinations, it's just that they don't trust the government. The government's telling you that something's good. Usually that means that something is bad. So I think what has to be done at this point is the idea of getting the message out has to be outside of the government now. It has to be community leaders, rabbis, clerics, your preachers, your clergymen, basketball players, football players, gamers, even people like YouTubers. YouTubers. It's gonna take that kind of collective effort now. I originally expressed a lot of, reservation about the vaccine myself. So I would like to see somebody kind of give me a nice little guarantee that nothing's gonna happen to me. I want to see that for myself, and so I get why why there's certain beliefs out there. I do think that we should give them a chance to kind of explain all the logistics and explain the vaccine the vaccine itself. However, I will say this: if you're having problems with logistics now, and you push this vaccine as quickly as possible, you can't exactly blame people for being a little bit suspicious, being a little bit worried. But let's move on here.
About out of time, but I had the HHS secretary under the past administration, Alex Azar, on in December, and I said, when are we going to get to that day where it's like the flu shot? You could go into your grocery store, pharmacy, or the CVS or whatever, and there's going to be widespread vaccine available for the rest of us, the general population who don't meet that priority group. And he told me it could happen as early as late February, early March. Do you agree with that timeline, or what timeline do you think
Hell no.
that day might come?
Hell no. If you're the average person, you're not seeing that to like May, June, July, August, September. It wouldn't shock me if you don't see it like next year. It wouldn't shock me. But you ain't seeing that no time soon. Just hang that up. If you're like the average person, if you don't have like a pre-existing type of condition, you're not like a frontline healthcare worker, you're not like in like a long-term care facility, you're not getting that vaccine maybe May, June, July, August, September. Hell, you might get it like Christmas. That might be your actual Christmas gift. Your first round of vaccine. That might be your actual Christmas gift. So I wouldn't hold your breath if you're waiting on like on a vaccine and you don't fit certain criteria.
As we talk with the manufacturers and we think about the supply and eligibility, we are going to, as part of our plan, put the vaccine in pharmacies. Will it be in every pharmacy in this country by that timeline? I don't think so. And as I said early on, I'm going to tell you the truth here. I don't think late February we're going to have vaccine in every pharmacy in this country. We said 100 million doses and 100 million in the first 100 days, and we're going to stick to that plan. But I also want to be very cognizant of the fact that after 100 days, there are still a lot of Americans who need vaccine, and so we have our pedal to the metal to make sure that we can get as much vaccine out there. As has been noted before, we are hoping to have more data from another manufacturer, from the J&J vaccine. The more vaccines we have out there that have FDA authorization, the better shape we'll be.
Yeah, and the J&J is the one shot, so that will help as well. Dr. Walensky, thank you for your time on a busy...
Wow. Yeah. Oh, I like that chick right there, man. I like that chick right there. If I see any more videos with her in it, I'm going to go for it. So anyway, here's a... live updates. Rand Paul says Trump impeachment will destroy the Republican Party. Trump is now out of office, making the idea of removing him moot, but opponents are eager to disqualify him from any future run. All right, so Senator Rand Paul says Wednesday he fears Republicans will destroy the party if they support former President Trump's conviction during his Senate impeachment trial. Let me go ahead and mute this. Okay, so I'm going to post this link in the chat for you guys. All right, so here we go. Let me go and check the chat. What do you think? I want to ask you guys a question in the chat. Do you think the vaccines will be rolled out to the average person by March? Yes or no? I asked by March, and the reason why I asked that, right? Because originally the health secretary he claimed that he would have 100 million vaccinated by the end of February, right? So that's why I'm asking about March. Do you think there's going to be how many people do you think is going to be vaccinated by March? I mean, I'm giving them like an extra month, right? So because whenever the government tells you something's gonna potentially happen, it pretty much never happens on time. Pretty much never. If the government tells you that the roads are gonna be, fixed on next week, wait till about next year. But let's get back to here real quick before I move on to anything else. Senator Rand Paul said Wednesday he fears Republicans will destroy the party if they support former President Trump's conviction during his Senate impeachment trial. I think it is a hugely partisan exercise on the part of the Democrats, Paul told Fox News' America's newsroom. But for Republicans who go along with it, I think they will destroy our party. Donald Trump isn't everything in the party, but he did bring a lot of people to the party. Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives for the second time on January 13th on an article of incitement of insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. So that is crazy to me. Second time. Trump is now out of office, making the idea of removing him moot, but opponents are eager to disqualify him from any future run for office. All right, so there we go. Live updates with that. So I posted that for you, so that way if you want the live updates, you can get that. Let me go and take that out. Take this out. Take that out. Okay. Here's another video. Joseph Biggs here. I'm gonna get into that video in a second. That article in a second, but here's a video. I'll post this in the chat for you. Here is a link to that video. It should be in the chat. Alright. That should be a link right there for you.
And if there's one thing that can be agreed upon, it's that it was unprecedented. The rise of a businessman and one-time...
I guess that video I opened up because it was
Parks joins me now from...
It was live updates for COVID-19. But we're going to go ahead and open this up real quick. This is going to be former President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial.
More on all of this. Mary Alice, could the Senate conjure up enough votes to convict Trump? What have Republicans said about how they might vote?
Good morning. It's possible, but probably still unlikely. A handful of Republicans have definitely indicated that they're open to the idea of convicting outgoing President Trump. And remember, just less than a year ago, Senator Mitt Romney joined Democrats and did vote to convict Trump during the last impeachment trial. McConnell this week said that Trump himself was to blame for that violent attack that threatened the lives of lawmakers. And so McConnell definitely gave political cover, even legal cover, to his colleagues, and basically gave them the okay and a reason to convict. But a lot is still...
Basically, if you don't understand what she's referring to, Mitch McConnell basically said that Trump, he basically called out Trump. He said, Trump, a mob showed up, an angry mob showed up, basically, and they were incited by the president, invoked by the president. So I would love to look at that again. Mitch McConnell. See that again. So
Senate convened, we had just reclaimed the Capitol from violent criminals who tried to stop Congress from doing our duty. The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like.
As you can see, I'm gonna give you a link to that so that if you want to watch that on repeat, you can watch that. I think that's the most Danger Davis. I totally agree with you. Yeah, vaccines are still gonna take a long time. Yeah, they are. I think that the average person may not see that. You may not get vaccinated until maybe. Honestly, I wouldn't count it until like September. If you're like the average person, if you're not in like a long-term care facility, a frontline healthcare worker, that kind of stuff, I wouldn't count on it for like a while. And it's mainly it's not because people don't want to give you like a vaccine. That's not the reason, right? And it's not because of some grand conspiracy. It's just logistics. We are the third most populated country on planet Earth, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think a lot of people don't actually know that. Whenever I say that, people are always shocked. They're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, we are the third most populated country on planet Earth. Third most populated country on Earth. That would be the U.S. Yeah, United States. Yeah, top 10 most populous. That's us. That's why a vaccine rollout in China and India and us, top 5 countries is gonna be a freaking nightmare, dude. It's gonna be a freaking nightmare. It's gonna be unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. You're talking about like pretty much China, India, U.S., Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, Brazil, Bangladesh, Russia, Mexico. These 10 countries getting their whole entire population vaccinated, or even half of it, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough, man. We have more than 330 million people in this country. 330 million. There's one birth every 9 seconds, one death every 10 seconds. There's one international migrant net every 47 seconds. Net gain of one person every 26 seconds. Right. So if you look at that, and you look at the fact that we have the better part of 8 billion people on this planet, the logistics of getting so many people vaccinated is going to be, it's going to be a freaking nightmare. Especially we talking about the more poor parts of India and China and Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, especially like Nigeria. You go over to Brazil, Russia. I think Russia will definitely be able to do a vaccine rollout because of how authoritarian they are. And I think Mexico will be able to do it because I think Mexico is kind of used to giving people out like large sums of stuff. I think that they are definitely more prepared for that versus a Nigeria or an Indonesia or even like a Pakistan. Pakistan is a great country, a great superpower, but I often wonder if they can handle like a vaccine like rollout, in terms of handling a lot of the logistical issues that you're going to run into for that. So.
Started this trial, so I think we'll have a lot of twists and turns with Republicans as we go from here.
Well, and normally the Chief Justice would preside over an impeachment trial, but since Trump is...
That was something very, very interesting. So here's the last story we're going to cover today. Yeah, the last story we're going to cover today is going to be about the Proud Boys leader brought up on federal charges. Joseph Biggs arrested. Proud Boys leader Joseph Biggs arrested in Florida in connection with the Capitol riot. Written by Caitlin Palance, Mallory Simon, and Amir Vera of CNN. It's published on January 21st, which is today, at 9:54 a.m. Eastern Time. A leader of the Proud Boys and a leader of the Proud Boys and an extremist group that took part in the U.S. Capitol insurrection was taken into custody and is facing charges, federal officials said. Joseph Randall Biggs, 37, of Florida, was arrested Wednesday and is facing 3 counts: obstruction of a proceeding, entering restricted grounds, and disorderly conduct for his part in the siege of the Capitol on January 6, according to the Justice Department and an FBI.
On January 6th, the U.S. Capitol was breached by a pro-Trump mob, hoping to stop the
I'm going to go ahead and just
certification.
let me go ahead and mute that real quick. Okay. I was not done with the article yet, CNN. Stop trying to play your stupid advertisement. I don't want to hear your news reporting yet. Okay, so Joseph Randall Biggs, 37, of Florida, was arrested Wednesday and is facing 3 counts: obstruction of a proceeding, entering restricted grounds, and disorderly conduct for his part in the siege of the Capitol on January 6, according to the Justice Department and an FBI affidavit. The FBI described Biggs in the affidavit as an organizer for the Proud Boys. Biggs appeared in court in Orlando on Wednesday and was released under home confinement and other restrictions, according to his court file. A lawyer who represented him in court did not respond to a request for comment. CNN Orlando affiliate WESH asked Biggs about insurrection allegations against the Proud Boys, and he said that'll be discussed in court. Ahead of the Capitol riot, Biggs posted messages on Parler, the social media platform favored by the far right, telling his followers to blend in and not wear identifiable clothing, an FBI special agent wrote in the affidavit. The only thing that we'll do that's us is think like us. January 6th is going to be epic, Biggs wrote, according to the affidavit. The document says Biggs was also directing his statements at Antifa. Authorities say Biggs said this is awesome on live stream footage of rioters entering the Capitol building, according to the affidavit. The affidavit states it appears the Proud Boys were wearing earpieces for communication on that day. The affidavit also notes that multiple individuals were photographed or depicted on videos with earpieces, including other people believed to be associated with the Proud Boys, the FBI affidavit says. The charges are among a recent spate of federal cases that allege planning and organization among far-right groups. The FBI said that Biggs told agents he entered the Capitol, but not by using force, and denied knowing about any planning for the storming of the Capitol. Biggs has been a fixture in other mass gatherings involving the Proud Boys. He is known for his extreme rhetoric against Antifa members, the black-clad left-wingers who maintain they are fighting fascism and often crash far-right events. All right. That is the final story of the day. All right, guys, let's get to my lovely face here. Thank you guys for joining me today. I want to tell you that I appreciate you for watching the show today, and if you want to participate in the show, the number to call is 253-203-6784. Again, the number to call is 253-203-6784. You can follow me on DLive, Mr. Devil's Advocate, Trovo, Mr. Devil's Advocate, YouTube, Devil's Advocate, Twitch, FusePainter86. You can follow me on Twitter, Devil's Advocate. Follow me on Facebook, the Devil's Advocate channel. Until then, guys, I want you all to be safe. Horns up, peace out, wear a mask. Don't get COVID, and hopefully 2021 can be better than what it has been so far. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you all for donating. Thank you all for giving me your ear and allow me into your life at least for a few hours on this day and every day so far. Thank you for being a fan. Hit the like button, hit the share button. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'm out. Horns up. Peace out. And please wear a mask. Don't get COVID, okay? Don't get sick. That sucks.